Joined in studio now by Tharaka Nithi Senator and leader of the Senate Majority, Kithure Kindiki. Thank you for making time to be with Sunday Live. We start with a vote that seems to be a huge testament of what people are feeling right now about the governors. But before we go to that, let's just talk about this tussle, as it seems, and the fact that some of it is very cosmetic when you talk about flags and titles. But for instance, when you look at the county development boards and the chairing of the board by the senators, these are much more impactful moves. So what is the purpose of all this? What is this infighting about? What does the Senate want to achieve?
Julie, thank you very much. I think for us in the Senate, we are very clear that we have a serious and solemn mandate in this country, which is to make sure that the only last card which is left to fix this country, namely devolution, works. In that role, we have some duality. One, we protect counties and county governments. The other duality, the other aspect of the duality is that we also oversight those counties. It has become common that when we are doing the protective aspect, for example, when we ask for more money to be taken to counties, the governors and county governments are very happy. But when we do oversight, that is what has been reflected to be a tussle. I want to say two things. One, we have no apologies to make about insisting on accountability. We have no apologies to make about saying that the biggest proportion of the money allocated to counties must go to development. We have no apologies to make when saying that governors must be accountable, because the law requires them to be accountable directly for the affairs and the resources at their counties. Second and last thing I want to say is that the other issues about title and flags were brought in good faith when we realized there is a lot of confusion. There are too many leaders at the local level these days, from the president all the way to the MCAs, and we needed to create some order. But over time, we are realizing, and now already the bill, of course, is before the National Assembly, and it's up to them to debate it and pass it in whichever way. If you ask me today, my personal view, it's not very important. Issues about flags, etc. But the issue of accountability, the issue of making sure that counties are doing development, we have no
that you say is primary. So Friday saw a precedent set that was hugely significant, the removal of Wambora from office. You've called on several governors to make themselves, to come before yourselves this coming week. They're saying they won't. What will the repercussions be if they don't?
Julie, I think Kenyans should know that initially Senate had invited these governors to appear before the relevant committee, which we do to every other Kenyan. An invitation is not adversarial. It's an invitation for discussions and clarification. Summons are issued when somebody resists the work of a parliamentary organ. And that is what happened with these governors. That is to say, when they resisted invitation and decided to tell Kenyans that they are so big and so important that they cannot humble themselves and appear before a committee of Senate, we went to the second level, which is provided for in the law, Cap 6, which is you issue summons. Now, if they don't come, because already they are saying that still they think they are very important and they cannot humble themselves. And by the way, it's a violation of Chapter 6. I don't think some of these governors have read Chapter 6 of the Constitution. Humility is key. If they don't come, we will subpoena them, and the relevant committee will commit them to the High Court, and they will be jailed. They stand to be jailed for up to 6 months, or also pay a fine, although the fine is very low, of 2,000 shillings.
Right.
But definitely there is a legal sanction.
Now, that's an important point. You're saying they could be jailed if they don't present themselves before the committee. This is about streamlining, you've said, development in the counties. It's about ensuring that money is going towards improving county situations. The budgets are well used. But let's pose this question. With this back and forth, imagine the County Development Board sitting, chair is a senator, the secretary is the governor, and locking heads at every corner. What next for a county?
Very quickly, Julie, the County Development Board, if you ask me, that bill is the most important bill we have now in support of devolution. Why? We realized that many of the governors are not even talking to their senators. Some have no contact with members of the National Assembly. And the rationale behind it is simple. If in Village X, the MP through CDF has put a cattle dip, the governor needs to know what has happened so that through his county government funds in that village, they don't also put a cattle dip. Instead, they will allocate money, say, for a dispensary. So the idea about the county development boards is not to intimidate governors. It is actually to coordinate development. There are no executive powers vested in these boards. It is very critical for coordination, for planning, and for the economic well-being of counties.
Okay, we've got a lot of views coming in on SMS. We'll take the views on Twitter in just a moment. What's the ideal situation moving forward?
Moving forward, I think, as I've said, two things, Julie. First of all, I think what the people of Kenya want is services and improved lives. They want to see more focus on the things that matter to them. If you ask me, things like flags and emblems, we could take that to the back burner for the moment and concentrate on assuring more money for development, coordinated development, making sure that the tax burden doesn't hurt the poorest of the poor. And these are the things the Senate will come out very strongly without any apologies. But at the same time, we do recognize governors, their powers, and their critical role in devolution. But the impression which has been created to equate the office of governor with devolution must also be dispelled. So
what you're saying is there is respect for the office of the governor, but checks and balances must exist.
Must exist.
Let's take a look at some of the tweets that have been coming in. Let's see what you're saying about this issue. Ronald Kimuta says, yes, in fact, their extravagance needs to be checked. Devolution was about development, not corruption. Etiang Eli Emod says, no, they're engaging in unnecessary power battles instead of focusing on more important issues affecting the Mwananchi. Let's see. Kiplagat Enoch says, yes, but they should think of regulating the new sheriffs in town. That's the members of the county assembly, the MCAs as well. I see you nodding your head. Silas Kamanda says each county should have its own flag, which can then be flown by governors. His Excellency title should only be used by the president and his deputy. Etiang Eli Emod again, no, economic downfalls affecting Wananchi should be given latitude considering the expense of the power battles. Let me take Juliet Mwikali one, says, I support this, though I feel that some members of the National Assembly may do this to punish some good and hardworking governors. Let's address some of those issues. You've seen there's quite a bit of support for this. And I think, you know, there's consternation with the way some of the governors have conducted themselves in the counties. There's a bit of concern, certainly a lot of concern about budgets, and you've just expressed that. But one gentleman there, Etiang, saying, you know, this is at the expense of issues affecting the Mwananchi. You're saying to the contrary, we're actually looking at the interests of the Mwananchi.
Julie, you'll see, we have just received, just this week, as we were dealing with the Embu matter, we've received fresh reports from the Auditor General. And some of the things we are seeing, if they are proven, will make the Embu matter look like child's play.
Tell us some of these things.
Well, let me not preempt that, because I think we have asked the relevant committees to start working on that. But you'll be shocked that a deputy governor who resides in a rural town in Kenya is living in a house which is paid by the county government nearly 387,000 shillings per month rent. You will see counties where governors opened confidential accounts where they draw 3 million shillings every week, and nobody knows for what purpose, and nobody knows you know, why this confidential account exists. There's a lot of nepotism. And quickly, Julie, out of those tweets, I want to comment on the one that talked about MCAs. Mm-hmm. If you looked at the report of the Special Committee of Senate, which was adopted by the House on the Embu case, it came out very strongly on the County Assembly of Embu, that although the mandate of the Special Committee was not to look at the County Assembly, during the hearings, they discovered that indeed there was massive nepotism and irregular employment by the County Assembly. So going forward, the committee recommended the Senate should also be able to examine the practices and the budget ethos of Embu County Assembly and take appropriate action as well. The scope is larger. It's not just about governance, it's about accountability across the board.
Continue to share your views with us on Twitter, on Facebook, and 22422 on SMS. Let's talk ICC for a short while before we close this interview. Of course, we heard Ocampo's remarks about a week ago, which raised a whole storm. Ocampo is remembered to have said that he will make an example of the Kenyan cases. It looks that the Kenyan cases may be making an example of the ICC. Right now, in this very precarious situation for the ICC, what are your thoughts, particularly because you were party to this at one point and representing somebody at the ICC?
Julie, I always knew that the ICC cases would collapse because of what you have just said. I have been a defense counsel before the ICC. But I didn't know that the collapse would come so soon and in such a spectacular manner.
When you say you knew it would collapse, are you talking about the evidence?
In a court of law, the things that drive the outcome of court cases are facts and evidence and the law, the applicable law. From the look of things, from the very beginning, it's very clear, and we have not even reached there. It is impossible to prove that crimes against humanity occurred in Kenya because of the lack of the organizational policy link in Article 7.2 of the Rome Statute. And that's what the German judge said very early when he dissented, even before the confirmation of charges. But even other than that, you build a case through evidence and linking that evidence to the people you have brought before the court. We looked through 27,000 pages of Ocampo's so-called investigation, full of rumors, full of secondary material. It's as if he subcontracted investigations to third parties, etc. So there is no evidence. And you cannot link whatever I stated in those accounts to any of the 6 suspects. So it's so sad that it has come this way. Ocampo has come out as a very tactless prosecutor.
Speaking as he did as the cases
even when
are
the cases
ongoing.
are ongoing.
And let me ask you this as we close. Two questions. Yeah. What are the remedies for those who are found, you know, if these cases fall apart?
Sadly, and that's why we believe the future of the ICC lies in a very serious legal reform. The ICC will face a credibility crisis after the Kenyan cases. I agree with you. Kenya has made the ICC an example.
What's the way forward for the ICC?
There is no redress, for example, if there is malicious prosecution, there is no way people who have been injured by the abuse of power by the prosecutor can get redress. The future of the ICC lies in the overhaul of the Rome Statute, make the prosecutor more accountable, restrain his powers, and make them supervised by judges from the very beginning. And finally, it lies in a fresh campaign for legitimacy so that the trust can be built again, and this will take not less than 15 years going forward. Wow.
Kindiki, briefly, what next for those who feel they are still searching for justice?
We have to go back to the drawing board as Kenyans. I think Ocampo and company took victims for a ride, and they gave them false hope that the ICC will provide justice. As a country, we also failed through the local initiative that's failed. And finally, the Truth, Justice and Reconciliation effort was a cropper because it was infiltrated with personal and petty issues that ruined the legitimacy of their report. The solution is in the country going back to the drawing board and discussing a national framework of settling accounts and making sure, however long it takes, even if it's the next 20 years, we sort out the issues in a way that achieves justice, that is fair, and reconciles the nation so that we can move together as one country.
Thank you for that, and thank you for making time to be with us. You can also share your views on the whole ICC issue and the ongoing situations that we see at the ICC, of course. I hear questions coming in, and some people are asking, can the citizens remove governors from office? Can they sign petitions? Very quickly, before you go, answer that question for us.
They can.
What citizen action would need to be taken?
They can. The removal from office of any leader can be done, but not through signature. The signature, you can remove a senator, you can remove an MP through that effort, but governor is only through death, resignation, impeachment, or court of law through criminal charges, etc.
There we go.
Yeah.
And therein we see the powers of the Senate. Thank you so much for joining us. Much more coming up on Sunday Live. Don't go away. Let's take a short break.